So the biggest cabin on board the boat is the forward double. Looks pretty straightforward, doesn't it, to start with? But actually there's some details that are quite interesting. For a start, look at the thickness of those cushions there. Plus, they're sprung. They're not your ordinary foam in there. Beautifully set out, beautifully built. I mean, throughout this boat, the standard of joinery is remarkable, really nice. But some of the details clever as well. All the lights have USB chargers on them. That's quite a neat idea. The forward cabin has its own heads, nice and spacious, plenty of room in there. Simple, but good and very, very workable. Another little detail that I like is the way in which normally with these doors there's a spring down the bottom to stop them flapping around when you're underway, and you invariably end up bending the door just to get it in and out of the spring. But here, a nice little wooden detail there, handle just goes in. It's really nice. It's simple, isn't it? It makes you wonder why you don't see it on more boats. So when it comes to the accommodation layout in the middle of the boat, it is, as I've said, pretty straightforward. I particularly like the galley. It's a great big galley, particularly for a boat of this size. Lots of space, Corian worktop, good quality stuff. I particularly like the fact that it's got enough of a lip here that you can sort of brace yourself as you're going to windward and the boat's heeled, work away here, or indeed the other way round. And of course there's a nice grab rail there, and there's fiddles as well. So quite traditional, but for good reason, because it works. Underneath here we've got two fridge freezers. There is actually capacity to have another fridge which actually can be fitted underneath here. On this particular boat they've got drawers, but you can have another fridge there. There's stowage underneath the worktop here. There's the usual kind of stowage that you'd expect for pots and pans and the rest of it under the cooker, the gimbaled cooker oven, and more stowage down the side, and of course a whole load around the side. So pretty straightforward, but good. Now, carrying on that theme of traditional and straightforward, here's something you don't see very often on modern boats. A navigation station and, look at this, a chart table. I mean, I might sound like I'm being a bit facetious, but it's surprising how many boats nowadays don't have a chart table. There are reasons for that, but frankly, it's the working part of the boat, isn't it? This is where you do your planning. This is also a social part of the boat as well. It's engaged enough in the middle of the boat that it's all part of the accommodation. And when it comes to that traditional approach, the instrument panel here, all the switches and the main gear that you need on the front, if you do need to get to the back, it's all nicely, very nicely put together, wired, easily accessible. All your fuses, circuit breakers, and access to all the switches behind there. And then when it comes to the saloon seating area itself, big U seating here, plenty of space. Plus the options on the table are quite interesting, because this one has got a folding table which comes out like this. You fold the table across, seating for plenty of guests there. Apparently there is also an option to have this table lowered so that it then forms a great big berth there, should you wish. Other options in this area, you can have lee cloths here, so you can turn both of these berths into sea berths. I bet they'd be pretty comfortable. They're right in the middle of the boat, so that'd be a nice place to be. And I guess the other thing that strikes you in this area is the amount of natural light that comes in from these deck hatches here, and of course great for ventilation as well. So if you're down in the Med or in the Caribbean, you get plenty of air through the boat. Now when it comes to engine access, again it's a pretty straightforward, probably what you were expecting. Underneath the steps, and it is, there's your engine. The good details are water filter here, fuel filter there, impeller there. You can get to all the main things that you need to on the front of the engine really easily. The side panels come off as well, so you can get to the other areas of the engine, but really the only reason under normal circumstances that you'd need to get to the back of the engine is to actually get to the inlet seacock for the water, but that's the only reason. We have a heads on the starboard side, pretty straightforward, has a shower in there too. And when it comes to sleeping, Two identical cabins, one starboard, one port. Except that there's an option to have that as stowage space, which is accessible from the cockpit. So if you've got bikes and paddle boards and the rest of it, and you're not going to have that many people on board, that's where you're going to be keeping it. Now, when it comes to the grey water tank, what's interesting is on this boat, it's underneath the cabin sole. It's just under here, just there. So all the grey water drains down into there, including from the oilskin locker, the wet locker, up forward, and indeed the water that comes down the mast. For some of the electrical items that you don't need to get at that often, but you will need to have access to, most of them, if not all of them actually, are behind the seating here. So we've got the B&G instrument network there and various other components which are pretty easy to get to. And on the port side, it's much the same story for the pumps.
Shortly after the test, the 435 was on display at the Southampton Boat Show, so I headed along to meet Arcona's CEO, Urban Langness. I started by asking him how the 435 had been received.
You've been down here all week. It's been a very interesting show. First of all, tell us, how's the show been? Have you had a lot of visitors? What's it been like?
I have understood. I have never been on Southampton Boat Show before, but this is one of the year when it's the smallest show. But it's been a lot of people, and I think the lust for being on a boat show again is huge. And people love to come and see the boats, that's for sure.
What have people been saying about the 435?
It's very clean. There is no ropes on deck, so you can run quick and you don't follow on the rope. So there is no ropes on the deck. Everything is hidden. And you also have a very clean cockpit, nearly no ropes at all. And still you have all the opportunity to trim the boat. And because we make the boats lighter than most other competitors, we can put a lot of heavy weight in the keel and bigger sails. So the boat moves even if they are big in light air. And people see that.
Now this is just the start, isn't it? I mean, this is an exciting new launch, but it sounds like you've got a few more things waiting in the wings.
This is going to come up in the brand a Mark II, a little bit higher. So we get more than like 10 centimeters higher inside the cabin. That's more, and then it gets a little bit wider, because when you make it higher, it also gets a little bit wider, but nothing you will see. And different windows. That's more or less what the biggest issue that you will see, the first thing you will notice.
And the bowsprit, I understood the bowsprit, that's going to be integrated into the design, I think.
Yes, the bowsprit will be a little bit neater integrated, yes. Yeah.
Good. Well, exciting times. It must have been quite a relief to be at a show. Even though you're new in the job,
yes.
This job,
yeah.
It must be nice though to be out, back at a show.
I've been in the boat industry for 18 years before. For another Swedish yard, we don't say anything else. And I've been away from the industry for 8 years now, and it's beautiful to be back again. It's so fun, and boat buyers are the best people in the world.
Fantastic. Well, it's a lovely boat. I thoroughly enjoyed sailing her. It's good to see you here. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you.